Welcome to The Naked Truth. And now, your host, Bridget Barclay.
Hi guys, good evening America and good morning England. Welcome to the UNX Radio, and this is my show called The Naked Truth, and this is my podcast on the UNX Radio. Tonight's guest is a bit of an exclusive. It's a friend that I've known for about, over 20 years, met at a conference, a Graham Birdsall conference here in England. And his name is Ted Roe, and Ted Roe has worked, he was the co-founder of NARCAP, which is a National Aviation Reporting Centre of Anonymous Phenomena. And he stayed within the aerial phenomena, but now he is doing something very exclusive, which will be very, it's record breaking and it's in history, really, in the making. It's for people that have had experience of somewhere to go medically. So without further ado, again, I'm going to introduce you to Ted Roe and let him talk. We have a really massive exclusive at the end of this, which when he told me, I thought, oh, wow. And he's letting us know it before it goes to the press, which is next week, I do believe. Ted, are you there? Hey, buddy. Welcome to England. Hello, Alaska. Right?
Well, yes. Hello from Alaska. Yeah.
Slightly colder there than it is here.
Little bit, yeah.
Little bit.
Yeah. We get a little frost in the car in the morning, so.
Oh yeah. I should imagine it's not just scraping it off. It's just abandon the car. I'm staying in. Right, Ted. I'd like you to introduce yourself because only you can introduce yourself the best that you can. So please introduce yourself.
Well, sure. My name's Ted Roe. I'm the co-founder of the National Aviation Reporting Center on Anomalous Phenomena. I'm also a co-founder and program designer for the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, UAP Aviation Safety Program. Worked on a small team to put that together. And the current founder and executive officer for UAP Medical Coalition, which is a program that's designed to inform mental health and medical professionals about UAP and UAP exposures to encourage research and improve patient care.
That's quite something. And also, back when you were having your experiences, our experiences, everyone else's experiences in the past, if something like this was put into place, this is going to go, this is making history, really. For everybody will have somewhere to go.
Yeah, the whole point is to get the mainstream mental health and medical people, the first responders and law enforcement, up to speed on the UAP matter so that they can actually help people with exposures rather than make it worse. Those of us who've had exposures and don't consider them a good thing have not found much support out there.
No. We were all laughed at when I went to the doctors for radiation or into Panga Canyon for something else personal. So now, hopefully, they're, and we've all spoken to people professionally and they've just looked at us. So, now's the time to make change. If change is happening within Congress, and you have worked within Congress, which I'd like to hear about in a minute, is the time for when everything changes, everything has to change. Everything's got to be put on the table. So talk to me about your Congress.
Well, let's just back it up just a hair. In 2021, when the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released their report on UAP, along with the reality of UAP as described, they cited three primary concerns: national security, aviation safety, and stigma. Mm-hmm. And I'd been the only group working on aviation safety issues with this all along, and stigma has defined every move I ever made in ufology. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for stigma. because I'm doing the work, you're doing the work, rather than, the professionals that need to pick up the ball here and help. And as we work with the nuts and bolts side of things, I'm working with aeronautical scientists and engineers and trying to develop solid understandings about this. There is the other side of the conversation, which is that people who have exposures to UAP tend to not do well with them. And I've been exposed to them, and it's not been good for my life. So, this is kind of the motivation behind all of this. The conversation has matured to a point where we can start pushing on this, because it isn't just licensed, and I think a lot of people understand that. So
it's funny because I'm talking about pilot sightings or passengers in aeroplanes. Andrew Goff was my one of my guests last week, and one of his sightings was when he was in a plane, and he asked if the other guy had seen it. He just witnessed. Well, if you go back and listen, he just witnessed. And I said to him, he just witnessed this object flying past, and the other guy didn't see. He wasn't sitting at the window. And I said, you know what? You know where you were going. You know what flight you were on. Why don't you see if anyone else had seen it, or speak to the pilots that had seen it? Because that would have been on radar. And he said, that's interesting.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think more and more people are seeing things, well, as they are, but also maybe from planes as well. Not just.
Well, I think so. I think we're getting more reports because the stigma is lifting. More people feel they can speak. So we're hearing more. We're hearing more from pilots. For the longest time, we didn't.
Yes.
A lot of the work I did with NARCAP was very much underground.
Yeah. They didn't want to tell, but they wanted to speak to somebody. Of course.
That's right. Yeah. And we everything we did was confidential.
Yep.
And then the government agreed with us, lo and behold. And
look at that.
All of a sudden my phone started ringing, and I could kind of look out and look above ground and see if there was a place for me. And apparently there was. And now the situation's developing, and I say take as much ground as we can, as the situation changes.
Okay, that's where we are now. But let's go back. When we met in 2001, a long time ago, you spoke to me about you'd had your own encounters. And we're not just talking encounters, we're talking remarkable close encounters of the third kind, fourth kind, fifth kind. I could associate with you because for me, having a craft above my head. So talk to me, because back then you couldn't talk about any of your encounters. You had to keep it all very low key, along, close friends. Talk to me about some of your encounters, please.
Well, one that kind of parallels yours happened to me in Oakland in 1999, and I've talked about this on other venues, but it was similar to yours in that it was a very close approach, and I had the attention of the device, whatever, and its occupants. In my case, it was a cylinder, not a disc.
Let's go back. You said occupants.
Yes, yeah. It was transparent. You could see into it, so you could see the crew looking back at us. And
so you're in a car, weren't you, at the time?
Right. Yeah, we were on a 880 southbound in Oakland on the freeway there.
In daylight as well.
Yeah.
So it does happen in broad daylight. Yeah,
it does.
You're the other one.
It does, and it'll happen when you're not asleep and not having sleep terrors and all the rest of it.
Was at 4 o'clock, if I remember, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a little after 4.
Yeah, mine was at 10:06.
Back then, I didn't really know what to do. I was very sick, and it was very destabilizing.
Yeah,
I felt very vulnerable and fragile. I didn't have a lot of composure. And when I finally one day I thought, geez, somebody down at Ames Research Center knows about this. They have an exobiology unit. I wrote a little note to the PR office at Ames, and not long after, Dr. Richard Haynes came back to me, he was the first chief of the Space Human Factors Office at Ames and a longtime UFO researcher with an interest in aviation cases. And so he interviewed the witnesses, the other two witnesses, and myself. And within a few months, we were setting up NARCAP. And then we pulled together our team from there. And then I met you about a year later.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, gosh. So it was very close then. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I'd been invited to speak at Graham's conference there in Leeds. And so I it's kind of my first public speaking. It was not a shining hour for this guy, but again, it was kind of an introduction. I met John Mack and Bud Hopkins and Nick and everybody who was anybody was there pretty much. So I got to learn quite a bit right away. It was a good introduction to the field.
Oh yeah. Meeting the best of the past.
Yeah.
Some of the best of the past. So that's just the one encounter. Yeah,
that's just the one. This has been going on since I was 5 years old, off and on. And I could go a decade without anything happening and then have 4 or 5 things happen and then nothing for another stretch, it's not like it happens every time I go outside, but it happens often enough that I don't want to go outside. So there are times when I don't want to, that I just, it's too destabilizing. My whole world turns upside down. If one of those things is out there, it scars me for a long time.
So, and for the other passengers in the car?
Yeah.
Do they recollect quite a lot of what happened?
Oh yeah. Yeah. They all recall the same incident, more or less, with some variation that you'd expect with people.
Aftershock.
Yeah. Being different and all. But it ended up breaking my relationships with those people.
Often does though, doesn't it?
Well, yeah.
It breaks everything.
Yeah. My girlfriend and I, and then our friend Ian, and he went first, just stopped talking. And nobody wants to be reminded of being a victim, and nobody wants to be around somebody that attracts this kind of stuff.
That's one way of looking at it.
I mean, some people feel like they would like to do that, but it is so damaging and toxic to relationships that and any responsible person that's having these experiences ought to think twice about exposing other people to them. I'm pretty careful about it myself. And I'm not saying that everybody should live the way I do, but I'm really circumspect about involving other people in this directly.
So there was missing time there as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, picked up about a little over 3 hours
on the freeway.
Yeah, in the space of about 70 seconds linear time.
See, there's a lot of, I haven't really, even though I went to work with Bud Hopkins and Dolores Cannon on the encounter, I mean, that's quite remarkable.
It is.
That is quite remarkable, isn't it, really? Because people just think it happens late at night. down a lane. Nope.
No, 8.5 million people in the Bay Area, and this thing sought us out in the late afternoon.
Because you saw it coming towards you, didn't you?
Yeah, it intercepted, basically. We saw it. It turned broadside to our direction of travel. We'd just come off the Bay Bridge interchange, and we're southbound on 880, and there's a curve. So we make the curve, and as we're making the curve, this thing is coming down on an intercept, and it stops so that it's centered in our windscreen as we're facing it. As we came around the curve, it was about a mile away.
It knew what it was doing then.
Yeah, it was aware of us, aware of me. I don't know how that is.
Do you think it's because of yourself, because of your experiences beforehand?
Yeah, it's a continuation of that, whatever that is, whatever that process is about.
Had the other two had experiences as well before?
One of them had, the other one hadn't.
With you? Or not with
you? And neither of them had anything that extensive. One of them had an orb come into her room while her and her mom were there when she was very young.
Yeah.
And then, but my friend had never been exposed to it, never seen it, as far as he knew.
See that? that's what I often think about Jane, that was next to me in the car, that, you know, she then went, you know, off the face of the planet the next day. Well, actually, I was like you, so dazed that afterwards that I just knew that I had to get away, and she did, and then we couldn't track her down. So, you know, everyone goes in a different path, which, you know, I always say it, be amazing if she, you know, comes forward. I would absolutely love that, but, you know, she's obviously traumatized by it as well.
Well, you can't blame them.
No,
You know,
no.
these things are, you know, people say, gee, I wish I could see one. You know, you don't want the attention of one of these things. You know,
When they're so close,
yeah.
when they're so close, and if you communicate with them as well, you know, you don't know what's next. It is like watching a paranormal film. You know,
And
it is. Yeah.
and bad things can happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike Cleland wrote in his book, The Messenger, about the owl. I had an owl in a printer scanner episode, and that was due to a object and an owl. And that was, honestly, that was quite hairy. That was really scary that went with it. Okay, right. So let's talk about the UAP medical .org that you're doing. I want to know intensively what it involves, where people can go, how much it's been set up, firstly, for people to go to, and what type of therapies are there? Are people that are they hypnotherapists? You know, tell me a bit more, please.
Okay, so the program itself doesn't actually minister to experiencers.
Okay.
We minister to the people that treat experiencers. So we're providing information to the mental health and medical professionals that have no grounding in this at all.
Fantastic.
And letting them know that it's real, it exists, and here are the scope of experiences that people have had.
Yeah.
Bring your skill set, do some research, and help us improve patient care for these people. So it's partly that. It's partly working with policy and advocating. Our military and veterans who are exposed to this need support.
Okay, so you're putting this in place now due to what's happening at Congress?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this is our mission. I've been, we're 16 months in on it. I've got a staff of 30 about. We're doing all of the business development that goes along with that, hunting down funding and this kind of thing. But what we're also doing is providing position papers, information, and a lot of it about UAP and UAP exposures. We have a forum that we manage so that mental health and medical professionals can participate through an alias and an avatar, so they don't have to risk their professional credential on learning more about this. And depending on where you are in the world, it can truly threaten your future and your chosen vocation. So we do that. We do outreach to key stakeholders, including legislative outreach, to inform legislators that we exist and that there is an issue that involves people's health and well-being, their constituents, including the military and veterans, including pilots, which is a group I've been in service to for the last 2 decades or more, specifically. But there are a number of subgroups that are underserved around this idea of UAP exposure, and we're here to advocate for them and to help improve that process all along in every way we can.
Are we saying that Congress, with the pilots that have gone forward, that they are seeking medical help?
In some cases, I believe they are. It hasn't, the conversation hasn't matured yet to that level of what insurers need to be thinking about, but it's going to. For example, if you have first responders, if you have law enforcement, if you have EMS people that come on scene and are exposed to UAP in a new environment where they're allowed to speak about it, they may need mental health or medical support. and who pays for that, and how is that managed, and what is the
Mhm.
policy around that? Do they, if they see one of these things and they report it, are they obligated to go get screened? This kind of thing. And how about witnesses? If they were in the process of doing something to help people on the ground who were claiming that exposure, how do they manage that? So all of these conversations have to take place along with the, hey, it'd be a good idea to take care of people here,
Of course.
but you need to understand, okay, it's policy, it's insurance, which is liability, basically. It's it's information and education, and then it's standing back and letting them engage, letting them do the work that they know how to do. Let the psychologists and the medical scientists do what they know how to do and apply it to this particular problem, so we can get to the right place, for our society.
So how far is everything? Everything's been drafted up now for Congress then to be put this forward?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're in a constant build with the organization, and we're constantly in dialogue with our legislative outreach process. So it moves at the pace that it moves. So when the conversation starts moving to physiological and psychological issues, then we'll be there as a go-to to offer support. Hopefully not the only ones. There's a program that's getting underway there in England, called UAP Consulting, and one of their groups is unhidden.org. And I've worked a bit with these people for the last few months, and it's been very satisfying to watch them put it together. And they have.
Okay, so I haven't heard of that, and I'm sure lots of people haven't heard of that as well. So how long's that been going over here, or is that with the help of yourself as well?
Well, it's been going on for 5 or 6 months that I'm aware of. I've been sitting in on a couple of meetings and just, trying to be supportive because it's a good idea. And we kind of help each other out, just in acknowledging each other, right, and making connections. I'm trying to get some of their MDs in touch with some of the MDs I've pulled together in Australia and some in the US to talk about.
It has to be worldwide, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Just be in America, yeah.
And you can't go around thinking you're the only one and that you want to be the only one and there can only be one winner and all of this. What you need is a lot of people thinking about this. You need a lot of groups doing this work.
Absolutely.
And the work that I'm doing is specialized and localized to the United States, but UAP Consulting is working and Unhidden is working in the UK, and UAP Med Australia is working in Australia. And once they get stood up, they don't have to be UAP Med Australia. They can be wherever they want to be. I'm just helping them get going.
Yeah. Gosh.
And we need more people thinking about this. This idea of abduction phenomena being woo needs to be revisited.
Yeah, definitely.
Along with all these stories of lights and objects in the sky, we have a parallel of other stories. Well, your story, my story, other stories. And it's time we got some of the support that we need, and that society recognizes the other side of the problem.
The thing is, it starts generally, well, you can have the one-off encounters, but generally when you're young, right? So a young child there. Let's have a look at John Mack. When he went to the schoolyard, he got the children to draw. It starts so young. And, I still have the images in my head of what happened to me when I was younger.
Me too.
Exactly. So it is a trauma. You're right. It is a trauma, even though I feel that I'm okay. I mean, a lot of other people think I'm batshit crazy, but or B's got a tinfoil hat on, but it is so much to laugh about. And I wish now that it is time for change, and I'm so glad that I've stayed in it, and you've stayed in it, and a lot of us have, because obviously we still wouldn't be here if we weren't truthful to what's happened to us. I know, so it's overwhelming, and like I said to you before, there are a few people that I know that would they would be crying on their knees knowing that something like this is around for people to have a voice to, because
I've heard a lot of gratitude out there.
Yeah.
And I know that there is a whole unserved segment of our population, and it's a lot more people than you'd think.
Yeah. Oh,
And,
gosh. Yeah.
and it's really hard to get your mind around how that is possible.
Yes, because like I said to you, and I've said it many times, every encounter is different. So just when you think, all right, okay, and then you're right, you might not have some for a couple of years, and then you might have quite a few, and then there is no rhyme and reason for it, and then boom, something else happens, and it's completely different, and you just think, what? I mean, it is.
Well, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, and it's part of the reason I kind of come down on the side that it's probably not a good situation. And if we're this much confused about it, but we know what's happening, probably not a good situation.
Well, considering we've all got to get on with our lives, work, bring up families, yeah.
And you're going to spend your life looking over your shoulder all the time at what might be coming up the drive,
the Men in Black car. No,
of it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
And that's the funny thing about it is that I used to laugh about all this stuff, even though I was living it. I didn't realize, all of a sudden, and then I sat up one day and I remembered, holy cow, I've been way too close to these things way too many times. Yeah. I have too many of these stories, what is going on here. And it didn't stop there. It kept going on. Yeah. And it involved all of those little sub themes, the white pickup in the desert, right, with the security people in it. I went through one of those with my son. Guys showing up that you don't know who they are knocking on your door. I've had any number of kind of weird experiences around NARCAP, just dealing with the public in general, and who knows what comes out of all of that. But the one thing that I've learned is that for every story I get, there's got to be dozens that I'm not getting.
Yeah, right.
When it comes to the abduction story, it's the same thing. And I don't know what all people experience out there. I do know that it seems to be variable, that my story isn't necessarily the core story. It's a basic story. It's kind of the consistent one that's been told since the 70s, but it's not like a lot of the stories you hear today.
What, as in because of why? What, because people seeing just the lights?
Well, what they report happening, like in my case, the occupant cases involved what looked like grays, and what are commonly referred to as grays. Other people tell other stories about other things, and I have nothing to say about that. So, I'm
going to hold you there. I've been told by Race we've got to go into a commercial break. So we're going to come back. We're going to go into a commercial break. And I think you're going to hear about the amazing weekend that's happening at the UNX convention for Halloween. So come back and join us at The Naked Truth. Myself, Bridget Barclay, and a Mr. Ted Roe. See you in a bit.
It's almost here, ladies and gentlemen. The UNX Network Year 2 anniversary at XCon 2023. XCon is being held this year from October the 30th to November 1st at the beautiful Oasis Hotel and Conference Center in Springfield, Missouri. Top speakers include host of America Unearthed, Scott Walter, plus Haley Ramsey, Sev Talk, UNX's very own Maureen Richmond and Dan Terry, Mindy Toutfest, Harriet McFeely, Forrest Crawford, and many more. And they're all coming to deliver new information on topics like UFOs, alien encounters, cryptids and ancient secrets, and real hauntings from the afterlife. Join us for the film premiere of A Haunting in Blue Hill. And don't miss the Mad Hatter Paranormal Halloween Bash, Banquet, and Costume Contest on All Hallows Eve, October 31st. So join us as we close out the 2023 conference season. Info and tickets are available now at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com, and we'll see you there.
Are you thinking about purchasing a wood-fired heating or cooking appliance but don't know where to start? The new book, Wood-Fired Heating and Cooking, will guide you through the process and make the decision much easier. Find out about wood stoves, wood-burning fireplace inserts, masonry heaters, cook stoves, brick ovens, and more. Learn about operation and maintenance, buying and storing wood, even how to make your own charcoal. A bonus section includes delicious recipes for cooking in a wood-burning oven, grill, tandoori oven, or smoker. The wise homeowner, prepper, or homesteader will have the ability to heat their home with wood when the power goes out or to save money on increasing gas bills. Wood-fired heating and cooking is available at Amazon. Visit www.woodfiredpub.com for more information. That's woodfiredpub.com.
Hi there, welcome back to the UNX Network and welcome back to The Naked Truth. Myself, Bridget Barclay, and Ted Roe, Mr. Ted Roe that's there somewhere. Hi, Ted. Right, I just want to say in the commercial break as well for Springfield, Missouri XCon for the Halloween, there is a live stream award ceremony as well. For people that are not able to make it, there is a live stream. So if you go to the unxnetwork.com, all the information will be there, or get hold of Margie or get hold of Race Hobbs and they will let you know. So, Ted, I was thinking on the commercial break, right? Listen, with all the encounters that all of us have had in our lives, what would you say was probably the most, I don't want to say meaningful, because I think they all carry something. What is the one that sticks out remarkably from your mind? I know that you're saying about the freeway, but what else is there that's happened to you?
Well, it's more about taking it as a whole. If you look at all of the experiences together, they don't have meaning until you give them thought, until you bring insight and objectivity to them and try to understand them on their own.
Without years. That can take years for just that one encounter.
Right. To not project your own biases or your own beliefs on it, and to try to be pure with what you learned and then act on it accordingly. And that can take a long time, but that was the journey I went through in a lifetime of exposures. That's what it led me to, was training my awareness. I went through a lot of very direct work with that. And those who know me know a bit about that. I did a lot of core Buddhist training, which is really very helpful in engaging this and other issues in your life. It was all of these experiences together. None of them particularly had meaning when they happened, other than they derailed me. They got my attention. It knocked me off balance. Emotionally, I wasn't stable. Psychologically, I wasn't stable. But it was the thought I gave it afterwards, and the time and the attention that it needed to clearly comprehend it. And then once I got to that point, then I could actually come to some understanding about what was happening to me and what was happening to others and what might help. So that's kind of what led to doing UAP Med, was just training self-awareness. None of these experiences had any purpose that I know, other than only that which is known to those who were doing it. I had no idea what it was about. They did. They knew what they were doing and why they're doing it, but they weren't telling me. And so, you can project anything you want on it, but what you can't do is stop it. So here you are with these recurring experiences that are invasive. They're invasive psychologically, as well as physically, as well as, just in your home space. You don't have a space to be that's safe. And you can project anything you want on it. You could say you were touched by the hand of God, and it was the greatest thing that ever happened to you, and the star people love you and all this other stuff. It won't change anything. And you can turn it around and look at it the other way, and that won't change anything either.
No.
But there's the realism of it right there. You don't know, and you should know. If something's taking liberties with you to this degree, you should know why this is happening, and you don't. So getting yourself clear and dumping bias and baggage so you can have an objective look at what you've been through is probably the first step. And that will change your life in so many ways beyond just this subject. Your awareness comes up, and suddenly things that you didn't notice before, you're noticing very early. You're seeing personality quirks. You're seeing activity in your environment. You're aware of things more. You're aware that you're being emotional about things. You notice your own inner state and that it's not consistent. And when it varies, you notice that that's happening, So that's part of the benefit of all of this, is raising your awareness and objective.
I think when you've had, let's say you have an encounter this evening, right? It's not just afterwards. It's those period of days afterwards. And I'm saying that from, like, you, when you've had quite a few encounters. So it's not like you're having it for the first time and you think, wow, or whatever, or however the situation, because it might not be a good situation, right?
Right.
But, it is that you're right. It's that me hanging on to the car after I'd had my encounter, just hanging on, didn't want to look around, didn't want to look at anything, just had to look on the floor, didn't want to look up, didn't want to look around. I felt drunk, all of those situations. It's the after effect, isn't it? It is the after effect. And it is.
You have to cope with the incident itself and the context that it presents in, which is one that society does not support. You're alone. You are alone. There is no
even
input.
talk to people about it either. Even though I had encounters, like I said, the guy that I was living with, Billy, I'd had a UFO encounter with here in England with him, and and I'll always say it, he's the first person I was going to say, you wouldn't believe what happened to me, and I couldn't say anything, So, and then you just sort of like literally just shut down, don't you? And I didn't even think about looking for physical effects or anything like that, because I wouldn't have known to. And like I said to you, not that long ago, about one that happened last year that had a triangle on me and stuff. So, and I'd only know that because I was like, oh, wow, and then you put pieces together. Okay, right. So Race will put it all up on the bottom. It's in the bio in regards to going to the UAP medical UAP med.org to find out. And it's on YouTube, because I went onto YouTube as well. And I think I put a link on my bio for it as well for people to go. And it is actually, really, I didn't know it existed. I mean, I did know it existed via you, but when I went onto the YouTube, it's like, oh, hang on a minute, I've got some hours to watch here, and obviously more hours, right?
I'd recommend taking a look at the anomalous health incident video that we put together there, which kind of goes along with the government's kind of screening people that might have been exposed to something unusual. They say it's for Havana syndrome, but they kind of quit talking about that.
They say it's
And
what? Sorry,
they say it involves Havana syndrome.
what's that?
It was at one time it was believed that some of our embassy personnel were being attacked by unconventional weapons
Okay,
used by adversaries, and I think they've changed their tune a little bit on that now. But
it was coming from
they're
somewhere else.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that there's a syndrome they can identify that they see a trend in people who are exposed to it. So we take a look at that video, AHI. It's kind of shows you what they're suspecting, that people are, when they get close to UAP or getting injured, there's traumatic brain injury involved, and it may have to do with aspects of the environment when UAP are present, emanations coming off the devices or something else.
Well, I think this leads very nicely into the exclusive. It does. I see how you did that. Right. Okay, we have an exclusive from Ted Roe. He told me earlier, and I just said, really? Oh my God. I visioned it in my head, and I just thought, oh wow. Amazing. I am just going to let you start from the beginning, and this is going to go to the news next week. Is this correct?
Yeah, most likely. Yeah. We should be rolling out with it in the next week or so. Basically, what happened was I was approached by a couple of field researchers, UAP field researchers, who claimed to have been assaulted by a UAP and had documented it on infrared cameras. And it's pretty good footage. We let them tell the story, what happened, and how it happened, and then along with the video of it happening. And then we're going to do a second video with our experts at UAP Med, our mental health and medical and law enforcement, first responder, tactical people, and just kind of go over some of the implications that arise from this. Some of the things that are interesting about this are the UAP were not visible to the naked eye. They could only be seen in the infrared.
Okay, right. Start from the beginning. Start from the beginning,
Sure.
the situation. Talk us through it.
Oh, well, okay. So they pull up out on the beach to set up for a night watching
Who
for
do?
UAP. The researchers that I was speaking of, and they the first thing they do is they get out and they scan the horizon with infrared cameras, because oftentimes UAP are not visible to the naked eye.
So what, night vision? Just night vision goggles? Night vision cameras,
and probably better grade than that. They have pretty good equipment, and immediately they see a triangular formation of lights just offshore, not far.
Whereabouts was this? Which state?
East Coast. That's as far as I'll go at this point.
Okay. Oh yeah.
They pull out a infrared emitter, which is like a laser, only it emits infrared light, and they poke it. They
come and get me.
They rattle it a couple of times. Nothing happened. And they were remarking about how they couldn't see it with their normal camera, but they could see it through the night vision, and just basic stuff, chatter that you would think. And then they did it again, only a little more deliberately. They painted this thing with infrared light, and it deployed a ball of light that was only visible to their infrared camera. And it came under the water towards them. And
hang on a minute. Hang on a sec. Slow down. It came underneath the water towards them. Okay.
Yeah. And it was an infrared light source, right, that they could see.
And this is a well-known area as well where this happens.
Well enough known. Yeah. I wouldn't call it private land.
Nope.
But the
water.
they started to turn and run when it came out of the water, and it expressed into a long horizontal band of light and struck them, and they were paralyzed. They fell down. Legs didn't work. They had secondary symptoms that showed up later of swollen lymph glands and some other things that were troubling. And it basically just kind of showed, to me, it showed a number of things. Tactical issues. Don't don't do that. Don't shine your flashlight on them. Don't point a laser at
It's
them.
like using a Ouija board for a spirit, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
probably
tempt
not a
me.
good idea. Yeah,
No.
wouldn't. If any horror movie that's ever been written is right, then probably not a good idea.
But people do use the beams and, the light sources. Or if you see something, you can communicate with it. I've often said this about Iseti Ranch. I saw lights and you communicate with it. And I said what it was going to do and it did. So, there's lots of other ways. But to see it coming towards you underneath the water, I can picture it now. You would just like see this. Did the water raise up?
No, and it
So
came.
just
It
the
came
light
right.
coming underneath.
Yeah, and it came right into the surf before it hit them,
Can
and
you imagine?
they had
Could you
no
imagine
time.
that?
They had no chance to react to it.
Wow.
They barely saw it coming. When they realized it was coming, it was already too late.
Wow.
And
That's
this is
like, yeah, well,
I call that a defensive reaction, and it's not something you want to provoke. It could have been worse. And
so they're on the floor, they're paralyzed.
right.
What happened?
Well, then they say that their equipment was gone through, all the functions on their equipment, all their cameras and everything. It just rotated through all the functions on their equipment. And then there was a following aspect to it where they went home and then it showed up there, and they've got that on video also. So
they're paralyzed, they're on the floor, they're trying to get up, they're trying to sort their heads out, blah, blah, get their stuff together. Then they, in probably a state of like unknown, get themselves to the car, probably not communicating with each other because there's no textbook for it, probably not communicating, getting into the car, and then it follows them home.
Well, it's kind of like that. They had two assistants with them, and they were parked a couple 100 meters away from the water's edge. Where
did they witness it?
Yeah, they could see
So four of them dead.
The UAP, but only two of them were close enough to be affected by it.
But the other two witnesses in the car are going to see these guys coming towards them and knowing that something's happened, right?
Well, they did,
Yeah.
and the whole point was that at some point later, the security equipment on the recreational vehicle that they have all this stuff in documented something approaching them while it was parked at their house. So this came later, a couple of days later, when that happened. The situation was, I don't know, when there like I said, there's three different ways you can look at it. It was clear because when I asked them originally, they said, because they had shown me that the research they'd been doing, they were trying to talk to me about something else entirely that was related to AIAA work and detection work. And they mentioned that they had been lasering UAP orbs. And I asked, I said, and it hasn't pushed back? Because they do. And they paused for a minute and said, yeah, it did. And then they got the video and showed me the video of it. But it was my pushing because they didn't bring it up, and it isn't in their other data set.
No.
So
I think, gonna carry on.
So it was clear that there was a mental health issue there. There's a mental problem in there, and they hadn't processed or worked on it at all. And when I was talking to them about them, the responses were completely inappropriate for what they'd been through. They want to go back and do more, and that's not real. If you're a thinking person, you think that through before you, a lot of risk behavior around it all. And I'm not treating these people. I'm not a mental health professional, and I'm not doing anything through the camera to treat them. I don't want to be in that position,
Okay.
But I was just trying to figure out if if they were okay or not. And it was pretty clear they weren't. And then the medical side of it is, it's, when your legs don't work, I mean, that's concerning. And then the secondary symptoms of swollen lymph glands and stuff suggest perhaps a radiological exposure, which seems to be a lot more common in UAP experiences than people want to talk about. And I would imagine
I'm still going to say UFO experiences, not UAPs. I'm sorry.
Well, that was Dr. Haynes and I, we started pushing that term when we came out with our first paper. in 1999, and because nobody was using the term, and Dr. H had
you did it. You started it, you bugger.
I did. I'll take credit for that. It was Dr. Haynes and I that pushed it,
Okay.
as it is right now. The adjective phrase unidentified aerial phenomena has been used a lot, but the actual proper noun with the capital letters and stuff with the definition, that was NARCAP.
Okay.
And we came up with that because we couldn't use the UFO term to talk to engineers and NASA underground. So so that's where that came from, the UAP term. But go ahead.
When you saw the video footage, footage of it coming out from the water, but did they drop the camera? Do you see anything else? Obviously, it's going to be
no. They're moving, and then they're on the ground exclaiming that they can't move.
Okay.
And you hear that. The whole thing was pretty disturbing for me, having been kind of in that situation.
Okay.
I've experienced that paralysis. It's not a good feeling. I kind of connected to it when it was happening.
So when they're in the car, so a couple of days later, they're back at home. What did they record then?
Oh, okay. So they had cameras.
Full picture for everyone.
Right. So they had cameras facing in each direction off of their RV.
Yeah.
So left side, right side, front and rear. Right. And so they're on, the cameras are on, just, it's the neighborhood. It's dark, nighttime. The street lights start going off. Click. It's shutting off. Right. So something bright is coming in. Right. Something bright is coming in and triggering the light sensors on the street lights. And then you see it, everything brightens up around the vehicle in the way that something bright lowering itself down on top of the vehicle would do.
Like like in Close Encounters when he's at
when you just see the light come down, but you don't see the object. And then the whole thing happens in reverse. There's some static, there's some problems with the camera recording, and then the light retreats back up, street lights come back on, and life continues.
Were they coming back from somewhere? Were they going somewhere to do with going out to look for some more UFOs? No,
they just had it parked in their drive. With the security
they weren't in there. That's what they caught on the recording. Okay,
right. It was just the middle of the night.
Happened to them that evening at all?
Not that they're aware of, but I didn't dig in that deeply. One thing that I'm not doing with this is investigations. I'm not here to validate what a witness experiences, and that's kind of the process with psychology as well. You treat the symptom.
Okay.
And you don't question whether it happened. You treat the symptom. You treat what's presenting it in front of you, and the trick is to recognize what that is. That's what the skill set involves.
So what time frame was this? When did this happen? This year?
Within the last year, within August, a year
recently.
ago, August. Yeah. And there's other work that's done by them. They have papers coming out, and they'll be coming out shortly. And some of that I think is very good work.
Okay, so what are you doing? What's happening with the footage? It's going to be published where?
Okay, so here's the deal with that. We have the interview with them with their footage and them describing that, and that'll come out in the next week, I would suppose, at the most, on the UAP Med channel on YouTube. At that point, they may roll out their own footage. They might step up on their own. If they choose to, I will make them available to you. I'll let them know.
Oh wow! Can I get an exclusive with them?
You might be able to. I don't know. But you'll at least probably get a chance to talk to them. I don't know how much they want to be associated with this part of it, because they're really trying to move hard science, and they were already refereed off of talking about this in their paper.
For me, I did this show so I could talk with everybody, and I could talk with other experiences, and race had Margie gave me the opportunity. I mean, Ray said it 8 years ago. I said, no, they're so stupid. But this is my therapy. This is, like you could earlier, you said a sentence that was just so remarkable. I was like, oh my gosh, this is in a private conversation that we had. And I'm just thinking, that's what it's about. When you can backwards and forth, and if there's something that you can take from a conversation, I think, wow, that is just, something I really needed to hear, or some, that I'd never heard anyone say before or something. So this is my therapy, what I'm doing. It's good for my soul.
Yeah. Well, and this is what I'm doing for mine.
Well, yeah, I know, right?
But it's the same kind of thing. We're trying to heal ourselves. We're trying to get right with the world in a way that we got wrong with it at some point, that the stigma and the bias in our culture put us in a bad position with our own race, with our own people,
So I'm going to go back to the footage because I've still got it in my head. I've still got that. I said when I was interviewing Preston Dennett, I would love to see a submerged. Sorry, you should say that. You got to be careful what you wish for. But a submerged object, lights coming from the water, because I haven't seen that. I haven't experienced that.
Yeah.
So military wise, they have. So it would be really, really interesting how they handle this, and how it will be exposed. And maybe from this, something will come from, exposed at Congress, that, that we have other footage, which they keep saying that they will, allow us at some point to see.
I'm certain that they do have footage, and it's a matter of scaling down classification so that we can see it.
Yeah.
And I think all of that's in the offing. They're under some unique pressures to do this and to make it happen. And I think they're going to. And I'm not sure the world's ready for that. That's why I put together UAP Med. There's a lot to understanding this, and not everybody will be able to or want to. And we have to kind of look out for our society, make sure that the things that people depend upon, that give them strength, whether it's their religious faiths, wherever they draw strength from, that's shorn up and aware and talking to them, so that they're there,
You said about orbs. I just remembered. Well, okay, I'll talk to you another time. But in last week's episode with Andrew, there were orbs when we were talking, and then when I spoke to Race afterwards, one massive one came down past. It was lovely. Listen, Ted, I'm going to have you back on as well. I think I'm going to have all of my good friends back on, because we've all got so much to say. So, Ted Roe, thank you very much. Please go to uapmed.org. Thank you, Ted, for being my friend for so long, and thank you, and welcome back next week. Not sure who's going to be on next week. It's going to be probably another exclusive, but I'll let you guys know. So thank you, Ted Roe. Thank you ever so much, and for all your help that you have done and are still doing. And I'm looking forward to speaking with one of your colleagues at some point. Thank you for being on.
No problem. And thank you. And it's really good to see you again, and appreciate your friendship through the years. So regards, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Okay. Right, guys. Thank you ever so much for listening to The Naked Truth here on the UNX Radio Network. Thank you for Ted Roe. And I can't wait to see that remarkable footage that's going to come out. So it's the next week from me, and I'm not sure who. I've got quite a few. I've got a really good list of people, so I don't know who it's in the picking, really. I'm not totally sure. Right. Thank you, guys. Good night from me. Good night from England. All right. Bye. Well, good morning. Bye.